We just discussed the bankruptcy of our current system and what it means to each and every one of you as an individual going forward. And we used a dollar here, but it could be a euro or probably any other currency of earth. But the economics of our mad money today. Now we're going to discuss the future. Now the future is an enterprise that I call We the People of Earth.biz, and it will have its own bank of real money. And in a moment we'll discuss how you get this transaction going. But you must understand that what this enterprise is, it's really just a plan. It's a plan to create an enterprise which would get its initial capital, which may have already gotten its initial capital years ago, because it could be a conspiracy, a startup enterprise of so many conspirators, of so many people, of so many nations, that all of a sudden, here's the idea, it's a conspiracy of us. And in the conspiracy of us theory, well, we get the charitable money. We get the money from churches. We get all the money from all the foundations on the planet, and we start trading, knowing that we have a plan. Yes, the people of Earth have a plan to buy the entire world. So while your world is crashing around you, did you know you had a bid? That's what they say in the streets, in the Wall Streets. You had a bid on the entire planet. You had a bid on all the real estate, on the banks, on the enterprises. There's an underlying bid on the planet from We the People of Earth.biz, only if that plan comes out. So it's like a plan to create conspiracy, but the plan is this. It's very simple. Once you get your mind around the idea that there could be a We the People of Earth.biz, it solves the problems of what I call, and you can't read, the Earth 1.0, if you want to give us the advantage of already being at 1.0. It's like a divided political and economic interests are at the heart of war and at the heart of our worldwide problem. The problem is we allow politics, which is really a game of lies, we allow that to drive decisions rather than enterprises. Enterprises can't get too big because that's antitrust. Talk about getting big. I reported our conspiracy to the antitrust DOJ because you can't get any bigger than an enterprise that owns all the companies on Earth. Now, I don't mean to say that we want to run it as one monolithic bureaucratic institution, no. But at the top of the game, we own the whole game. We own both sides of the transaction. If we have two enterprises competing, there are enterprises on both sides. And, well, there's a whole thing with intellectual property and how we mine human capital. That's another part of the story which we'll get to in the future. But let's just go through the transaction right now. It's very simple. Transaction. Okay, first remember that all the nations of Earth are conspiring to do this. So, let's just discuss this. What we do is we buy all the assets of all the nations with currency, but we don't issue currency for those assets. We issue preferred equity, and we buy the natural resources, and we issue preferred equity, sometimes common equity, and we buy the enterprises. And you see, we pay the value of those in preferred equity, and then we take and give them more money than they're worth and give them common equity. So they might make 2 or 3 times. They might get 1 time in preferred and 2 times in common. Well, that's a complicated why that. Well, because what you want to do is you want to show the people that are putting their money in the game, when they put their money in the game, that they're going to get a reasonable return on investments. Now, I showed you the world of crazy money, and well, if your money goes to nothing, that's not a very reasonable return for any capitalist on the planet. And that's something that every capitalist on the planet should be able to calculate. Their money going down to nothing means, well, what do they have? The world falling apart around the rich, what do they have? They have increased risk, of course. But anyway, let's say, we're getting our minds around the same table. So the assets of nations are all going into a common pot called .biz. We the People of Earth.biz. It's a business. And then the debt and liabilities of those nations. Well, what we do is .biz basically issues preferred equity and trades out on the debt. And trades it out, and they see we could trade it out at a very good price because this debt is like, can't be paid back, so you can buy it 50 cents on the dollar now. What if you could get it at 20 cents on the dollar for the dollar's debt? anyway, that's an interesting point, because then it ties into what we're really paying, and we'll get to that in just a second. Then what we do is we buy the real estate. But we see, we bought the banks, and see, we're putting the banks into a bank of us. It's going to issue our own currency, a virtual currency, all tracked, virtual equity, all tracked, all by computers. Everybody's count will be in the giant computer system. And, well, we'll have privacy, but within the system, it will limit a lot of corruption because, well, the bribes will all be automated. If all your money is automated, how do you bribe people? Well, you can give them goods and services. Well, let's not go there. So, but anyway, the point is this. Okay, so you get the mortgages. Why not buy all the real estate? And the plan was this very simple. We looked at the old world, and you knew your housing expenses so high. But what if the people had a long-term horizon and said to all the people that had a house, I'll pay 1.5 times that house. I'm going to pay off your mortgage, and guess what? You take the difference, put it in the bank. You'll just pay a small amount for maintaining and the building, the ability if it's depreciating, we need to build it eventually in the future. But sort of we'll keep in the bank sort of the underlying land. So basically, you stay in there for the rest of your life in your house, and in the long run it goes back to the bank. Or maybe we figure out a way for your children to rent it. The point is, your housing expense in the future world goes down. In fact, that's part of the plan. When we have a future world where we own other people as shareholders, see, that's the other point. Once we finish this transaction, then we do a giant currency exercise, and we issue virtual currency in the stock of the people of Earth at a premium for common equity, and we give everybody on the Earth common equity in the enterprise of their own future, which then provides them equity income. Now the only question is, how can we make lots more profits? And we will be changing many things because, well, the thing we're talking about, jobs lost. In the future, jobs might change and be lost at a higher pace. But why? Why wouldn't we, for example, if we could eliminate jobs and build robots to do them, why wouldn't we? Well, we need to find something to do with humans. And that's part of our future plan, which I haven't really completely outlined yet. In fact, it's just in a blank state right now. But let's get back to the transaction. Now, the important thing about this to remember is we're all putting ourselves on the same side together. Now, of course, we'll have local economic interest and we'll be responsible for our nation and local locality. But imagine a world of really towns reporting to enterprise, and nations were more of a sort of a non-governing political state, but an important state of contest because, well, we want to lose all the nations. We have the fun territories for contests, and we have nation against nation, but that's more like the Olympics than the wars of old time, and well, even the more modern wars, even worse than before, but let's not go there. Well, we could, but the point is, so now, what do we do in this transaction? Well, somewhere back here we talked about all these monies and the possibility, in fact the probability now, of the almighty dollar in euro collapsing, creating a concurrent collapse of our currency, as nobody has faith in any currency, even China with a surplus. You can't have faith in China if its major markets are crashing their value to their own economic wealth. So, say, it won't work. We can't get out of this the old-fashioned way, fighting it out with our currencies. But once we have our own one currency, and see, this is a currency of all the people, and see, we've either secretly or publicly or both conspired to jump over and get on the other side of a one-world currency. And once we did that, see, the thing is, we can drive. Let's say we started out, and one of your dollars was one of our virtual real dollars. But let's say we could, have a war. See, we can insure our dollars because we have a better plan. So our dollars could go up. Your dollars could keep going down. And why would you want that? Because guess what? We get to buy all this stuff out at a huge discount. And remember, it's a discount for one bank of us. And we're getting the discount across the board. It's not just dollars, it's euros and rubles and rupees and wands. It's all of them, the pesos. Everything is collapsing, being bought, but ready to rise like a phoenix. See, that's it. It's a simple transaction restructuring ourselves all on the earth on the same side. And then once we get on the same side, I'm going to tell you how we mine human capital and how we change ourselves all into capitalists. Why shouldn't we figure out a way to retire somebody by 19? And, well, what you find when you no longer have the robotic pursuits, and you could have robots to do that, or you eliminate process and function that have no real value and negative value to the earth when you change things. But see, don't worry about changing things, but think about art. See, from now on, knowledge and content will rise. We must find new things, and what better new industry than a movie, than the knowledge of how we did this together. The movie, when we put ourselves at our own round tables with our own world and our own energy policies and our own policies to save the planet and the ocean, because in the long run, we must world. As a world, we must run the world in the long run. And in the long run, when we're all dead, but we're all alive through our children, and we put the children on the same side, and we give the children the same bank. And you see, we don't make you trade the choices. We trade the choices for you with the brightest minds. And in exchange for getting all this stock, the people will participate and, when necessary, get the heck out of the way of progress. Thank you very much. Next we'll talk about the world of economics in the future.